Corey Van Arnhem,
Brody
General
Waters.
Manager for Tennessee Titans. Nice to meet you as well. So how was your commute in? Did you make it here okay?
Yeah, we did. It's been busy. You know, Sean is obviously, excited about the opportunity to hit free agency, but definitely was interested in seeing what you all were willing to do. He'd like to stay. He has got some interest in Tennessee. He had a good experience this year with you guys. And I think obviously his play speaks for itself. So he's been busy with this free agency, but we're open to seeing what you guys are wanting to do.
Of course. And the coaching staff, we're pretty happy with Sean Spence.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And we like him. He's a pretty good guy. No character problems really for us whatsoever. But just to cut to the chase here, Brody. Right now, we're working with about $25 million in cap space. We allocate about $20 million of that to our linebackers. So that gives us more or less $5 million to work with, and we've got 3 linebackers hitting free agency right now. So, with that in mind, let's go ahead and start talking.
All right. Well, I'm sure we can work. We'll figure out the cap situation. Obviously, with Sean's situation after this year, you guys signed him to the 1-year deal. He obviously performed at a high level. 5th leading tackler for you guys. So. Definitely outperformed what you guys signed him for in 2016, but that was all part of the deal when we did last year. So I know, as we explore free agency, he does have some opportunities around the league to be a starter, which is going to pay probably in the neighborhood $5.5 million a year. But like I said, he's found a home here that he liked, and if we can make something work, then he's certainly interested. I know. You've got some other linebackers. I know, obviously, I'm sure you're looking at their age too, especially with Woodyard over 30. So, I know Sean being a 26-year-old guy, is he a backup? I'm sure if he is, then he'll move into that starting role soon. We can, if it's a cap thing, if it's a $5 million cap, I'm certain we can figure out how to make that work.
Okay, wonderful.
I will say his interest is in finding a home. So he wants to do something multi-year. This past year, you guys signed him to a 1-year deal. And we're not looking to do that again. And of course, if he signs a new team in free agency, it would be with a multi-year contract. So that is something that's important to him. So along those lines, I think 3 to 4 year contract is probably what we're looking for. So if we want to have a $5 million cap, is that what you're saying? We need a $5 million?
No, we're like I said, we've got 3 linebackers going into free agency this year. So to allocate all $5 million to Sean, it's just, that's not going to happen. Of course, we're always looking into the draft, the potential of drafting another linebacker as well. But, what we do see fit on is that 3 to 4 year deal. I like that. I'm comfortable with that. More so, you mentioned the potential of him becoming a starter. And that's a possibility of him doing that with the Titans as well, especially given our current starter's age. Right now, the team likes 3 years with a 4th year option.
Okay, we could entertain that. So 3 years, and you're thinking at like I said, I know 5.5 is what we'd expect as with some of the other teams if he had a starting role at the beginning. I understand the situation here. He would initially come in as a backup, and we're aware of that and willing to work with you guys on that. So, somewhere in the range of $4 million a year with an opportunity for him to earn more if he does, become the starter, I think is something that would make sense for both teams. And again, when we get that number, we can work on structure to make sure it works with you guys from a cap standpoint.
Okay, and that $4 million a year, that would kind of leave us with the kind of space to be able to, for our remaining 2 linebackers to only get free agent guys, because that leaves about $900,000, $1 million to sign those guys, with the signing bonus and everything, how all that works. So, $4 million, that might be a little bit high on our end, but let's talk a little bit. His last deal, he had about $1.5 million in base salary.
Well, he was at $2.5 million this year. It was a 1-year deal, $2.5 million. So I understand. If you think having a $4 million cap is going to be a little too high for you, why don't we do something? Let's do a 3-year deal, and let's do how about a $4 million signing bonus that'll prorate out, and we could do $1 million base salary that first year. They'll put your cap at $2.3 million. Plenty of space to sign your other guys. think that shows that you have, real commitment to him, and we could do base year salaries. We'll have modest increases, $1.5 million and $2 million in the next 2 years. And then just to kind of round out the deal, I think starting in 18, so for 18 and 19, a $1 million roster bonus each March. Again, that gives everybody a chance to evaluate things, and also is going to keep, at that level, you guys are well under what you had talked about. He never even hits $5 million cap number. It seems like a comfortable year, and then we can figure out some ways to make sure that if he becomes the starter, there's some mechanisms in there to increase him. Which I'm sure if he's performing at a starter level, you guys wouldn't mind paying him at the appropriate level.
Okay, so just to recap, you're talking about a $4 million signing bonus that'll prorate to about 1.3 each year. We're talking about $1 million in the first year, 1.5 in the second, 2 million in the third year for 17, 18, 19, 1.5, 2. And then you only want those roster bonuses to hit in 18 and 19, and that's $1 million. $1
million each year.
Okay. Now, we're starting to talk a bit. I like the structure of this. Let's talk about the roster bonuses a little bit.
Okay.
We had a little bit of an issue. Sean's missed a game last season and missed a game the season before that.
Yeah.
$1 million. That's fairly heavy. We only went 500,000 last season. So maybe if we can talk 500,000 for 18, and then we'll go $1 million for 19, and let's make that game incentivized. So can we don't
have an interest in the games because, like you said, I think the proper way to be looking at it is that he only missed a game. So he's proven his durability. Everybody in the NFL is going to miss games, and for him to have only missed one game in the past several years, I think he proves his durability. So that commitment to him needs to be in the spring. I think we make that in March. What I can do is I'll do. What if we went down to 750, and then we'll do $250,000 for him to participate in the off-season workout programs. So the roster bonus will be 750. We'll add a $250,000 workout bonus in there. And again, that's an opportunity for him to show his commitment to the club. And as these years progress, as he continues to emerge as a leader on the defense, you're going to want him there.
We're prepared to do $500,000 roster bonus with the $250,000 workout program incentive that you mentioned before. After all, it is in his best interest to put the work in to be the starter. So that's about as far as we're going. I don't think we'll budge on it.
Okay, so if we got the $500,000 roster bonus in 18 and 19, let's go ahead and guarantee the one in 18, just again to show your commitment. And let's put incentives in here that for 6 or more starts, his salary is going to escalate by $500,000. If he's starting that much, then a $2 million base salary in the second and a 2.5. You guys are still getting a steal. And the reality is, if he's starting that many games, we're probably going to be back at this table again talking about a longer-term deal.
Right, exactly. And that's kind of like what I liked about having the option year. If we feel that he's going to be our starter, we've only been dating for a year, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a long time. We'd like to go a little bit longer before we make this a solid commitment. So, we'll come back in 20. We'll have a good option squared away to where if we decide that he is the starter that we want to keep, then he'll be compensated for that handsomely in 20.
Okay. Well, we can look to add that option. We'll keep the numbers that we talked about, the 500,000 roster bonuses. We do want that one guaranteed. And then in 18, we can have an option bonus for 20. You guys got to execute that after this year. After 17, you guys would have seen him for 2 years, and then you can decide if you want him for 20, and we'll figure out what those numbers are.
Exactly.
But let's focus right now. Let's just if we can agree on this 3-year, $4 million signing bonus, $1 million base, $1.5 million, and $2 million. Mm-hmm. We'll do $500,000 roster bonuses each year, with the 2018 one being guaranteed, and then the workout bonuses at $250.
Okay.
All right?
So how about, this is workable. Let's do $3 million signing bonus. That's about as good as we're gonna do. If we got the $3 million signing bonus, then that was good. I was really willing to shake.
Your time to say that might have been a little sooner. All right, so how did this one look compared to some of the others?
It was good. Once again, it was one side saying, well, I don't want that, I don't want that, and he kept throwing numbers. He was like, okay, well, and he kept decreasing on the agent side. It was like, okay, we want 5. Okay, well, I'll settle for 1.5, and so he brought him down by saying no.
Right. What he did was very skillful. Remember I told you that it's like painting a picture, and you don't paint the whole picture. You do parts of the picture, and it comes in different places. So what he did was he got them to agree to the base structure of a deal and then continued to build upon it. And how did he do it? By everything that Corey said he could do. Well, how much? He didn't say, give us more cap space. He said, oh, you have $5 million? Fine, I'll work with that. You have limitations on how much you want to spend on your line? I'll work with that. So I'm going to fit something into a structure that works for you. So he was the guy who came in and looked for a suit, and he was the tailor that said, I'm going to fit this suit to you. Instead of squeezing him into a suit that he wanted to sell that didn't fit him. And so what he did was he allowed him to get, basically, most of the time I was forgetting who was the agent, who was the club. You were agreeing so much, I kept thinking, dang, are they working together on this? Right? Because he got him saying yes so much. And in fact, Brody would say, I like that. In fact, what it does, it helps me with this, it helps me with that. And Brody's sitting there going, yeah, it sure does. And he was smart, he just stayed quiet. He stayed quiet and let Corey sit there and tell Brody how many different times what he liked about the deal. And all Brody was thinking is, exactly, I'm going to push another pin in that cushion as soon as you get through talking. So what did he do? He gave him a proposal that it was hard for him to say no to. And then when he got the proposal, just the base of it, he continued to build and build and build on it. So he said, here's the numbers, we're just going to do small base salaries. On its face, that wasn't offensive. Then he threw the $1 million rosters in. And he threw the $1 million rosters in knowing he was probably going to get some pushback, but $1 million wasn't his real number. So then he said, I can't do $1 million, I could do 500. He said, how about we split the difference? We'll go 750. Except he really didn't go 750. He went 750 and put another 250 back into the workout bonuses. So he never moved against his position. So that's very skillful. So you know what? I'm moving off this position and I'm recapturing the money somewhere else. So, and then Corey said, I like workout bonuses. It's a good way to get the guy in on time. Brody's thinking, you bet you do. So that was another thing. So it never came across as antagonistic or offensive. It was, I'm building a suit for you. I'm customizing a suit for you, and this suit feels good. And that's what Corey kept realizing. Yeah.
I like how he subtly snuck in the guarantee on
right at the end.
The roster bonus.
Yeah.
And if a roster bonus is guaranteed, is it really a roster bonus anymore? Isn't it just a guaranteed bonus? Which was subtle. I mean, you're calling it one thing, but it's actually something else, but it was easier to slip it in that way.
And if you get the other side agreeing, then you can be the one doing all the talking. And when you're doing the talking, you're the one that can slip things in. And he said, and he started making the pitch in a way that it was in Corey's language. We'll guarantee we're working together. He said, how many times did he say we? We, as if they're working on this deal together. Almost in all of your negotiations, it was one side versus the other. This was two people working together as if we said, you're both on the same side, carve out a deal. And that sometimes is a better way to make the deal work. But Brody said, let's do guarantee in 18, because obviously that just proves that you support the guy and give value to this. So he's giving you the rationale. And what Corey didn't have body language that went like this. He's like, yeah, I guess that makes, it was logical. So he was willing to accept it. Now, did at any point Brody change his demeanor and go from Mr. Nice Guy to snap or a jump?
I would have at the end when he tried to cut my deal.
Yeah. The only time he did a little bit is when Corey cut against the bonus and said, let's change the roster bonus from March to over the course of the season. Now that was the only time that he actually changed his disposition. He jumped up and he said, oh, we're not gonna do that, we're not gonna do that. Every other time, it was a cooperative nature. So that would have been an indication to you that that was really valuable to him. He wanted to come away with that March bonus because he knew that the March bonus was effectively $1 million increase over the base salary. He just disguised it differently. If he had said, I want a $2.5 million base salary, you might have pushed back. But what he asked for was a $1.5 million base salary to get you to say yes, and then he built upon that and added the roster bonus. And what he was effectively getting, because his number was basically to get that 2.5 base salary. But he built it differently by getting it as $1 million of base, or $1.5 million as base, and $1 million of roster. And you could tell that, because the only time he got a little was when you said, let's just make a game. That would have been a time for you to say, well, don't you think he's gonna play in the games? Why would he not still get why do we have to give it to him in March? Why, it's still $1 million. I mean, we certainly aren't putting him on this, we're not paying all of this money to not have the guy be on the roster. So you could have pushed back a little bit there, but that would have been the only time that I think you would have seen him go from Mr. Nice Guy to, because that was an important issue to him, right?
Can we just so I think, just to recap to make sure what we were, if we were to agree what we were gonna do, was the 1 million, 1.5 and 2 in the base salary, right? And then we had the 1.3, 1.3, 1.3 allocation for the $4 million signing bonus. And then we had the 500,000 and 500,000 for roster bonuses in 18 and 19, and then 250 and 250 for the workouts.
Correct.
Okay. So I mean,
You were comfortable with that?
I was comfortable with it, and the only thing, if I would have had 30 more seconds, I feel like I just wanted to recap the deal and then readdress the signing bonus, and then.
So the only thing I would say about that is, again, to Michael's point, the way it was a pretty cordial, and if you would have pulled that at the end, it would have completely undermined this relationship. If at the end you would have basically recapped but trimmed the signing bonus by $1 million, which out of 4, that's a substantial. That would have blown up what we had just done.
Okay.
So if $3 million signing bonus was your number, you should have pushed back on my $4 million early.
Right.
But to try to agree to it, and then in the end say, okay, just recap, we're just going to do a $3 million. It's just, a little deceptive, and it would have really altered the way.
Okay. So I should be more forward with my disagreeing then. Right
on something substantial. So one of the things about this deal that was unique was a backup player in a smaller deal. I couldn't come out with, I want $7 million. We have to be realistic. And so at the end of the day, we weren't going to be battling over that much. So it was to try to find the small wins. So to try to alter something as substantial as $1 million off the signing bonus, and to do it at the very tail end, would have
The other
kind
thing
of.
that was deft about the way Brody handled it is that obviously he's much more experienced at this than Corey is, right? But he didn't do it in a way that was bullying. He didn't do it in a way that showed Corey, look, I'm manipulating this deal. You're along for the ride. Shut up, sit down, and tell me what I'm going to get. He didn't do that. He made Corey feel like they were equally in it, and even though he knew everything Corey was going to do before Corey did it, he didn't demonstrate that in a way that it became offensive. And so that's the other thing. If you're going to move the process and you're working with someone who's, let's say you've been doing this for 5 years and you go up against a person who's in their first year. Well, if you go in and bully them, well, then they can be rigid just for the sake of being rigid. The job is to make them feel comfortable, still get what you want, but do it skillfully in a way that doesn't make it so obvious that you're really just nailing the guy because they don't have the same amount of experience. So you don't have to step on them when they're down. You can do it in a way that still gives them some dignity and confidence in the process and still capture the goal that you're after.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would have probably agreed to the deal because I feel like I hit the goals that I had for myself. With the only thing being the average per year, I wanted to keep it at 3, and it ended up being 3.3.
But you had a deal ultimately still that you could live with. I would think the only thing is if you really were against the signing bonus, to Brody's point, you needed to kind of.
Right, I need to say that sooner.
So the other thing that we kind of left out there, that if we would have had a longer time, and especially if we were going over, if we would have revisited each other, is I was focused on trying to get over 2 years is really where I really wanted to get my money. I really wanted that. To me, that $4 million signing bonus was a victory because now my guy's got $5 million in the first year, and who knows what happens because he is a backup.
Right.
But I wanted to make sure that the core of what I wanted to get accomplished got accomplished, and then we could start revisiting some of the things that you had put out there that we didn't get into too much. But the fact that you talked about a 4th year and an option bonus and the incentives we didn't really dive into. I mean, so for me, I wasn't about to agree on that deal. I was about to agree on this part, and then let's start talking about that 4th year you mentioned, and let's talk about another option bonus, and let's talk about incentives. So it's finding what was most important to me was those 2 years, how much money I wanted to get. But then you would put kind of some breadcrumbs out for me that I could come get later with you brought up an option bonus. You brought up a 4th year. You know, so those kind of things were things that I would have revisited before we just closed the deal.
Right. And remember I said at the end of the deal, sometimes you can always throw in the last or second bite of the apple if it's delicately done. You can't change the deal and take something off, but you can say, so from Brody's standpoint, as he was saying, he had a whole bunch of crumbs. Before they actually signed this, he was still going to throw, and it was because of a door you opened.
Right.
So be careful when you open an area that you're not really clear that you want to go to, and particularly be careful about making an offer that's not necessitated by something the other side has done. Your job is not to say, here's the basket of opportunities, right? It's to be able to narrow your focus just to the things that are on your list.
So when I said, one of the things, when I said a $4 million signing bonus, one of the things you could have done, because you had laid the groundwork, so you could say, okay, but that's for a 4-year deal. And not a 3. So I kind of was able to get what really probably should have been a 4-year bonus, but got you to only talk about 3 years. And you kind of left that 4th year.
So because if I'd have done, if I'd have had either a $3 million signing bonus or a $4 million signing bonus over 4 years, then everything, all the criteria would have been met.
Right.
Good job.
You did a nice job, though.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.